In the previous video, we tried to fit a line to this blue data here, and we saw that it did not work very well. So we want to switch from linear regression to what's called logistic regression, which I think is the most famous way of performing classification supervised machine learning. So the import step is basically the same. So from sklearn.linearModel, import logistic regression. And it's not going to be obvious why this is called a linear model, but we'll talk about it in some future video or future lecture. And so we've imported. Now we're going to create. And I could do reg equals logistic regression. Okay, that's fine. But because this is a classification task that we're doing, it's conventional not to call it reg. It's conventional to call it something else like CLF for classification. So that's what I'm going to do. And then we fit just like we do for linear regression. So I say, what are the input variables? Okay, or what are the features? What are the predictors? And we only have one feature. It's this bill length. And then the output is going to be this is_addly, and let's use float here. Okay, but it certainly doesn't have to be numbers. It can be anything you want here. It doesn't even have to be something that can be converted into numbers for logistic regression. Okay, so we've fit this classifier now, and let's make a new column in our data frame. So let's call it, how about pred2? And we'll do clf.predict. Okay, now we only give it the inputs. Okay, we don't tell it what the target is. Okay, and let's copy this code. Okay, this was the code that created this red line here. And let's change it a little bit. So let's go back to a scatter plot, and I usually use mark circle, but let's use mark point so it's hollow, just so it looks a little more different from these blue solid circles. Okay, bill length is still going to be the inputs, and now this new column that we just created using logistic regression is going to be the outputs. And let's call it C2 instead of C1. Okay, and let's look at C plus C2, okay, layered on top of each other. And so you can see that this is, I mean, depending on what you mean by perfect, this is like almost a perfect description of the data. And so in the next video, we'll see a little more about like what's actually happening and like how is this logistic regression working.